here in LAACT. I am joined with my colleague Will Murphy.
Hey everybody.
And today is day 1 of 3 about fixture profiles. So we're going to go through the basics, the foundation of every little, well, not every little column in the fixture profile editor, but the majority of those, how that links up with the encoder bar. And that gives a nice foundation as to what we're doing in the fixture editor and how that translates to the end user. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, get rid of my ugly face, and here we are with the MA2 on PC version 3.125. So we have our encoder bar down here at the bottom. This is how the user interacts with the fixture profile, right? I like to think of this encoder bar as in 3 layers. First layer is the preset types. You got your dimmer, position, gobo, etc. Then you have your feature here. There can be multiple features within a preset type. And then within that feature, you have your attributes. Those are the different functionalities of the fixture. Okay, now how does this translate to the fixture profile itself? Well, let's take a look at that in setup, patch and fixture schedule, fixture types. Okay, you're going to have a list here of all the fixture types used in your fixture in your show file. The way we get into looking at those fixtures is by selecting one and then tapping the soft key down here, edit. All right, now we're looking at layer 1 of 3 of the fixture profile. This first layer is just going to be your attributes. Okay, so remember that's this bottom layer here in your encoder bar. So these attributes link up with this part of your encoder bar. All right, so we got color RGB1, color RGB2, 3. Those are your RGB color attributes, or CMY. Color 1 is your color wheel. Color 2 is your second color wheel. Shutter is going to be your strobe feature. You got your dimmer on and off. There's a whole bunch of attributes, and actually if you right-click on this gray field under the attribute column, you get a whole list of attributes to select. Now this is kind of a huge learning curve when building fixture profiles. Which attribute do I use when building a fixture profile? So it's really helpful to know the basics of what you're going to be using. Dim, that's your dimmer. This is actually broken up into 3 layers as well. Your preset type, right, that's your first layer. Your feature, which is the second layer, and then your attributes, the third layer. Right? So you're going to be using dim a lot, you're going to be using pan and tilt a lot. Some fixtures have multiple pans and tilts, you can ignore those. Gobo 1 is your first gobo wheel, gobo 2 is your second gobo wheel. You got your animation wheel, animation rotate or index. So it takes a little bit of time to get familiar with these attributes that exist in the selectable attribute menu. But again, R/C invert, G/M invert, B/Y invert, these are your RGB or CMY flags of your either LED fixture or arc lamp fixture. Color mix I like to use for fixtures that have predefined color macros. Down here in beam, you got your shutter. It's going to be your strobe. Iris is in beam. Okay, so get familiar with this list, and you'll find that you'll be using most of the same fixture attributes within your fixtures. Okay, so we're looking at the attribute list here. This is the basics of building a fixture profile. These 3 items over here, your module manager, wheel manager, and instance manager. Okay. Module Manager is for pretty much 3D exclusively. You're allowed to create multiple modules in case you have a multi-instance fixture, and we'll get to that on day 3. Your beam angle, that is going to be in 3D, how big is the beam spread. So you can have a 19-degree LECO. Maybe you make your beam angle like that. If your fixture has zoom, you want to change the beam angle to 1. And then we apply the actual beam angle range in the zoom attribute, and I'll go over that in day 2. Beam intensity is how bright that fixture is going to be in 3D. MIB delay is going to be generally left to default, but maybe a scroller has that. Again, this is for 3D. Class. Now, if you notice that your fixture profile doesn't show up in 3D or doesn't show up in your stage view, it's most likely because class is assigned to none. This basically tells 3D, don't assign a 3D model to this fixture profile. So you'll generally be using moving head, conventional, and LED. Now, quick thing about these moving heads, that's a head mover. That's going to be like your Claypaky Scenius or your Claypaky Sharpie. Okay. Conventional, of course, that's going to be your dimmers. And LED, something to note about LED is only the face of the LED illuminates. It doesn't create a beam. You can change that in 3D later, but just note that if you have an LED fixture and you see that the class is LED, but it's not producing a beam in 3D, that's because this particular class doesn't do that. Maybe you want to change it to conventional and go with it that way. Okay, and then beam, spot, wash, effect, fiber. I have no idea what fiber is for. Never used it, but I'm going to say you're going to stick with spot and wash most often. And then if you want to change the size of that fixture profile in 3D, that's done here in size X, Y, and Z. You can simply right-click or click in on the screen encoder for that gray field, and you get to choose how big that fixture appears in 3D, thus allowing you to have a very accurate 3D model of your rig. Okay, so Module Manager, it's for 3D information. It's very helpful if you like to get your 3D looking spiffy. The Wheel Manager, this is where you go to create wheels for your color wheel, your gobo wheel, animation wheel, prisms. In 3D is also, or I'm sorry, in MA2 is also known as effect wheel. This is something we'll go over in day 2 in the more advanced attributes. And then Instance Manager, this is where you go to create a multi-instance fixture profile. Again, we'll go over more of that on day 3. So back to the basics here, we have our list of attributes. If we look down the line here, we have several columns, a lot of columns actually. I do want to point out, all of this information is accessible on our website in the support page, Grandma 2 section, here in the Featured Bulletins Fixture Profile Encyclopedia. So if you want a written explanation of each and every one of those columns, you can check out the first chapter, Fixture Profile Components. This is where I've gone and listed everything and anything you need to know about all the buttons, all the options, all the columns, all the windows within the Fixture Profile editor. Yeah. So if you want a reference to that, it's there on our website. But back to here, the ones that you'll need to know for today is course. This is your DMX channel number. So when you look at a DMX sheet, DMX channel chart, it's going to say, hey, CMYC on the cyan color wheel, color flag, is going into the first channel of this fixture profile. The color wheel 1 is the 4th channel. So that's where the course number comes in. Now maybe you'll see a 16-bit attribute. That's your fine column. That creates a much finer, higher resolution DMX value for that attribute, so you have higher control. Ultra is the, was it 24-bit version of that? No attributes have 24-bit control yet. Something that they've put in place for future. Default and highlight. Okay, default is the value you want to put in here when the fixture profile is idle in the programmer. So when I want to have the fixture just doing nothing, and I want it to have an open color wheel, so 0, I want to have all the color wheels open. I want the CMY flags to be open. I want shutter to be open. So these are values that you find in the DMX channel chart to see whatever is idle and doing nothing. Okay, the highlight column, that's for when you tap on the highlight key here. The software looks at this column in this fixture profile as soon as you tap on the highlight key and applies that value. So in general, with MA profiles, we want an open white beam. which means no color, no strobe, 100% dimmer, no gobos, no prisms, just open and doing nothing. Okay. Another very important column here is called snap. What this does is it tells that attribute to ignore any kind of program timing. So for instance, gobo wheel 1, we don't want it to slowly fade into the next gobo. We want it to snap into the next gobo. Therefore, we enable snap for that attribute. I like to use that for control channels, such as lamp control. This should have snap on it. Reset, dimmer curve, things that don't really need program timing, you can enable snap for them. The rest of these here you don't have to worry too much about. You can learn more about them from the Fixture Profile Encyclopedia. Okay, let's look into the next layer. So this is the first layer, it's the attribute layer. If we select a particular attribute like gobo 1, then we can tap on the Edit Row soft key down here in the bottom left. This takes us into the second layer, which is our sub-attribute layer. This is also specifically for MA3D. So the gobo 1 attribute has the gobo 1 sub-attribute. It allows you to assign a wheel, which is what we glanced over here in the wheel manager. Again, we'll go over more of how to build this tomorrow. You got your from and to columns here. These are directly related to your encoders here. This is called the natural range in which these encoders can roll through. So this is the value from 0 to 28% is where I get to select a gobo from wheel 1. So this is for the user. The from DMX to DMX is for the fixture itself. So between %0 and 28, you're basically sending the fixture DMX value 0 through 71. Okay, and this will make sense once we go into the next layer. The from and to physical columns are specifically for 3D. We don't have much to do with 3D in this level, but we do have more to do with 3D in the third level. So you'll see from and to physical for specifically zoom. Not zoom mode, zoom. So here is where I glanced over in the module manager. If the fixture has zoom, you want to apply the beam angle to 1, but in the zoom attribute here in the from physical to physical, you get to assign the actual beam angle of that fixture. So it's going to look at these two values and visualize those in 3D between those values. So from to physical is for 3D. You can also enable 3D time for that attribute. So maybe you want to apply this to your pan and tilt so it accurately reflects how fast your fixtures move in 3D. But back in gobo 1, in the sub-attribute, we have 3 different sub-attributes. This fixture can select gobos, it can spin the gobo wheel, and it can gobo shake is what I'm thinking this third one is. Okay, lastly, we have the third and final level. This is called your function set level. If you look up here in the title bar, it tells you where you are in the fixture profile. So sets of function. These are the little shortcuts that you get to press when you're looking at them in the encoder bar, in the pop-up calculator, or in the smart window. So you see here gobo 1 has this little pin spot gobo. If I look at a smart window, I select my fixture. In the gobo preset type and gobo 1 feature, the gobo 1 attribute has all these function sets. These are user definable and they're done in this third level. Okay, so you just add all the function sets that you want and then apply the from and to values. So what's cool about this third level is these values get assigned via one or the other. So if I have the DMX channel chart and I see that open is DMX value 0 through 3, then I can input that value. So I'm going to put this back to 0. I can input that value to, say, DMX, 2DMX, value 3, and you'll notice that the 2 column has reflected that value. Now what it's doing is a little bit of math in the background. And what's great about this builder is you get this calculator when you edit that field. So right now, if I didn't know specifically that is a DMX value of 3, or if I did and I needed to assign the from column here, the to natural range here, I could literally do the math in the calculator. So it's DMX value 3 divided by a total of 255 DMX values, and we need to make it a percent, so times 100. Okay, so that's a nice little feature that MA has put in that makes my life a lot easier and will make your life a lot easier. So you can do this math in this level, in this level. You wouldn't really need to do it in this level, maybe for their default values, but those are the 3 levels. You have the attribute, the sub-attribute for 3D, and the function sets for the user. These are what I like to call the shortcuts. Yes, Will Murphy.
There was a good question specifically related to these values in the natural column, where you had like 41 point, like on this column, 41.6.
Sure.
Somebody was wondering why that's not exactly 50%, or why does it come out to 1.38?
Sure. So that value is based on a DMX value, and not all the DMX values divide evenly into a whole number. So whatever 41.6% is, so if we did, I guess, 0.4, if we did some math here, times 255. No, I can't really do that here, but it's the fixture profile builder doing the math for you here.
There's one thing to look at. If you dive into the function sets,
sure,
all the way, if you want to dive in there, and like right-click, open the calculator for a to value or from. Maybe back up. Maybe the sub-attribute is where you saw it. Click on the calculator for 2. Yeah, see the range at the top?
Up here.
So natural value is what all the stored information is based on. So all your presets and Q values are all based on a natural range, and it's based on a number that goes out to the thousandth place. And you're taking, 1, 2, 3, 4, a 7-digit number and translating it into a 3-digit DMX value.
Right.
And so by doing that, you end up with these kind of odd kind of decimal point, 42.19.
Right.
And they do that for resolution purposes, programming-based resolution, because since the core storage is based on a higher resolution, we can get more accurate in MA3D. And if you back up to where you pointed out the coarse value, the coarse and fine, there's ultra as well. So we support a 3-digit DMX value, which is 1 million steps or something.
Yeah, that's a gnarly DMX value.
Yeah, so there are some devices out there that actually use 3-digit DMX. So in order to, since we do all our programming based on natural, we need to be able to support a DMX resolution that high. So it gets a little weird when you only have an 8-bit DMX value. It's a little better when you have a 16-bit DMX. If you have a 24-bit DMX, then the natural range is a little bit more lined up.
Right.
So I appreciate that question, because that was a confusing one for me for a long time. So I understood that since we store everything based on natural.
Right, the natural is for the user, the DMX is for the fixture.
Yeah.
And we're translating the 2 values within the fixture profile. It's kind of the Rosetta Stone of user to fixture deal. Now, we could start our own fixture profile, a new one, simply by clicking on a gray field and tapping the add button. And now we have a couple of values to input here: the long name, the manufacturer, and the mode. Those are the three options that show up in the XML file when you're trading them with your friends or posting them to MA share. These are the three words that show up. These three columns show up in the fixture itself. So I'm going to call this a test fixture. Or no, I'll call it the Will Murphy fixture. All right. The short name automatically assigns itself if it's blank. The manufacturer, Clay Packey, came out with it just this year. It's a new fixture. Don't tell anybody. It's going to be awesome. And then the mode. This is going to be what I like to use, the channel count for that fixture. So we'll make just a simple 10 channel fixture. This is all user definable. If you look down in the bottom here, once there are attributes, it'll list all of those attributes and what course number or fine number they correspond to. And then you also have notes and revisions. Notes are sometimes added there, especially by automated imported profiles. For us, if you look in the revisions and you see this note, it's either built by me or by Will or Ryan. So take a gander at that, be like, oh, Spencer built this profile and it's broken. He sucks. I should go tell him that it's broken. Okay, so now that we have our new fixture, it's going to be blank. I'm going to tap edit, and now we're in this blank fixture profile. What I like to do in terms of workflow is add the number of attributes that we're going to have in the fixture. So it's actually going to have 9 attributes because one of them's it's going to have 10. 10 attributes. So my first attribute is going to be dimmer because it's essential. So that's as simple as selecting the gray field, right-clicking if you're on PC, or tapping in on the screen encoder to get your select attribute pop-up, and then selecting the attribute that pertains to that value. Now what I like to do is I like to build these attributes in the order that they come from the DMX channel chart. So dimmer is going to be course 1, and it's going to have a fine channel. So its fine channel is 2. Pan is going to be channel, course number 3. Tilt is going to be 4. Now let's throw in gobo wheel rotate. So let's say gobo 1 position, or these little caret symbols. It's going to have a color 1 wheel. It's going to have CMY or RGB invert. And finally, it's going to have, I don't know, shutter. Oh no. We'll use focus instead. Okay. Now you could go in here and add these all one by one, or you could select all at once and just type in the first channel number and it'll fill in all those channels for you. This will save you a lot of time. Once you do that, you want to assign the defaults. So I want my dimmer to be idle at 0. Cool. I want my pan and tilt to be idle at home, which is going to be 0. Gobo is going to be 0. Color is going to be 0. I want these, however, to be at 100. So again, you don't have to do this one by one. You can select a range of fields and input a value. Color 1 wheel, it's going to snap. Gobo 1 wheel, it's going to snap. Highlight, dimmer, it's going to be 100. We don't need a highlight for that. The gobo is going to be open. Color is going to be open. These are going to be open, and focus can be left alone. So it took me, 2 minutes to create a foundation fixture profile. Adding the attributes, assigning the course number, assigning the default values, the highlight values, and the snap. Now, if you want this to show up in stage view, you need to make sure you go into Module Manager. We got our Will Murphy module. It's got a beam angle of 35. Great. Intensity. Okay, class is none, so it's not going to show up, which means I need to make it a head mover. Okay. It is a wash fixture, but it's currently no size. So I need to input some values in here real quick. "50 centimeters all around." It's a cube fixture. All right, boom, done. Fixture profile is done, and it's on its way to being patched. Huzzah! The Will Murphy fixture, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so this will get you started. If you need a profile that your festival threw at you immediately, and they're like, here's the channel chart. All you have to do is really just put in those attributes in order and assign the course numbers, and you have a working profile. Are there any questions?
Yeah. There was a good one here related to the snap attribute. They saw that you enabled attribute as snap, which means it has no timing associated with it. They were wondering if there's a way to override that in a queue. Can you make that attribute still fade in a queue?
I don't believe so. There is. I haven't. I think actually Ryan was talking about this last week.
iTime.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so we have the gobo wheel, which has a snap attribute, right? And if we choose value 50, well, let's use the Mythos because it has function sets. Sorry, Murphy picture profile. So we'll do this one, store it to a queue. We'll select new encoder, store that, and then we want to go to, let's say, this gobo, but with an individual fade time of 3 seconds. So that's choosing the value and then choosing the fade and storing that to the second queue. That's your individual fade time. I won't be able to visualize it because I don't have 3D open, but it's taking 3 seconds to throw in that gobo now.
We actually have a whole webinar on iTime as well. If you go to the Acolyting YouTube Tech Talks playlist, it's the third one we did, and it's titled All Those Layers.
All those layers.
Yeah, and it covers all those layers: value, fade, delay, effect layer.
Another cool thing about the snap attribute is if you edit your sequence and you scroll to the right, let's make this a little bit bigger. You edit snap %. This is cool. It tells the snap attribute to weight a percentage of the user definable percentage of completion of the queue before it snaps. So let's say I remove this individual fade time, and now I have Q2 with a snap % of 50. And if I go into this queue, it's going to wait until if there was queue timing too. Come on. So this first queue, it's going to snap immediately. The second queue, it's going to wait till 1.5 and then snap to the gobo. So you have the snap %, which is kind of like a delay for your snap attribute, which is pretty cool. Doug Mechanic told me that one at Summerfest. I was like, oh, that's what that does.
That's a good one. That's a fun one because if you were doing a fade from stage right to stage left, and the gobo snaps in right in the middle, and then the designer wants that fade to take longer, you don't have to go reprogram all your iTime.
Right.
You can just change the queue time to 5, and it's still halfway through. This guy wants to know if the snap percentage can be fixture and attribute based, or just the fixtures in the queue. This is definitely all snap attributes that exist in that queue. There's no way to specify.
Right.
Otherwise, you'd go back to that iTime example. We have another question here back to when you were building that fixture profile. The pan and tilt attributes. Someone was asking, shouldn't the pan and tilt default be 50% for the home position?
This brings me back. Thank you. Depending on how you have your sub attributes set up here, okay. Right now with default, we have a natural range of 0 to 100. And in that person's case, yes, 50% would be home. The way we like to build our profiles here is having the natural range match the actual degrees in which the fixture can pan and tilt. So let's say as a base, this fixture, the Will Murphy fixture, can pan a total of negative and 260 degrees to the left and a positive 270 degrees. Did I say 50 on the last one? Negative 270 on the left and then positive 270 on the right. I'm going to match this same number for 3D over here on from and to physical. And now with a default value of 0, we are at our home position. So once you do set up your attributes, it does definitely help to go into the sub-attribute level and assign the from and to values for some of the fixtures attributes. 35 and 135. So now we have the ability to rotate our encoder to a specific degree so we know exactly what degree that fixture is pointing in. That's how I like to build profiles. That's how we've built a standard for ACT fixture profiles, is applying that from and to range. Great question.
I have a good follow-up question for that.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know. Do you know why MA chose to do real-world values, the natural values, why it's really the degrees of the fixture?
To make it easier for the programmer?
Yep. That's one reason.
What's the other one?
Fixture swapping. If you think about all the different manufacturers of the world, some of them are 500 degrees, 540 degrees, 520 degrees total pan tilt. If you swapped based on the DMX value, the fixture would no longer be at 45 degrees, it'd be at 52. But since I said earlier, all of our data is stored based on the natural value. If you program that fixture to point at 45 degrees and you swap it for another fixture that has a smaller range of pan or tilt, 45 degrees is still 45 degrees no matter what. So it actually makes your life easier when you're doing like cloning and fixture swapping.
Sure.
So that's a neat one. We're going back to snap percentage again. There was a question: does snap only obey the snap percent, or does it also obey delay time? It will obey delay time.
That's an individual timing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you could apply an individual time on a snap attribute. It's going to wait until it snaps, for sure.
So very similar to the snap percent. Snap percent, I guess, is overall for the queue. Whereas if you want a specific fixture to wait a snap percent wait, you can put in an individual delay.
And if our colleague pointed out that if you don't want to use an iTime, you could use queue parts. So you could store multiple part queues into a single queue, and then you can have different snap times for that as well. Let's see some of the sign-up questions. A lot of people were asking about multi-part fixtures, multi-instance fixtures. We're going over that on Thursday, so make sure you join that webinar. I think some people are definitely interested in building a fixture profile from scratch. We just covered that. There's also a tutorial in the manual, a little very basic tutorial in the help manual. And don't forget the fixture profile encyclopedia.
Yeah, pretty much everything I went over today is this third chapter here, building the basic profile. I didn't quite get to adding function sets. So we got our attribute layer, edit the attribute. We got our sub-attribute layer, edit the sub-attribute. Now we're in our third layer, function set layer. I'm just going to add 2 function sets. Remember, these are shortcuts for the user. You get to label it. This is the label that shows up in the smart window or pop-up calculator. And then you get to assign your from and to DMX. So I want my close to be at 0, and I want my open dimmer attribute or function set to be at 100. And you'll notice how the from and to got stuck at 0, zeros, but this is 100. This should be 255. But we're still stuck down here at 0.39. It's because these values are looking at the natural range here. What is going on? From to, yes, yes. 0, yes, right. Oh, because you see our actual max DMX value is 65,535. This value, instead of putting that in the DMX column here, I could actually say 100% and 100%, and then we get the right values there. So again, you can see how you can input a value on one side and it will affect the other side. Doesn't matter which side you input it in first, these both manipulate each other. So now I have two function sets. So if I back all the way out, apply all my changes, select my Will Murphy fixture exclusively, go into the dimmer preset type, see my dimmer attribute here. We have our open and closed function sets. And that's pretty much how you build a fixture profile. Now again, tomorrow we're going to talk about the specifics of how to build a Gobo attribute with the wheel manager, how to build, we'll do a shutter example, and all the different sub-attributes used for that to visualize in 3D. We'll go briefly over the color wheel. It's pretty much the same process as the Gobo wheel. We'll go over Prism, which took me forever to figure out how to make that visualize in 3D properly and work with the fixture. And then yeah, day 3 we'll go over multi-instance fixtures. Any more questions?
Yeah, you're in the right spot. Somebody was interested in what's different about a 16-bit pan and tilt versus a 8-bit. This is actually cool because you currently have 8-bit pan and tilt attributes right now.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do to make those 16-bit?
Right, so that's this fine column right here. So our coarse column is for 8-bit attributes. Our fine column is for 16-bit attributes. So we see here pan is just an 8-bit attribute. Well, if I wanted to make it 16-bit, I would apply the channel number for that attribute in the fine column. We'll also make the tilt a fine attribute. So now these are 16-bit attributes, which means this one attribute takes up 2 DMX channels. And you also notice that my default value got all messed up because of where 0 lies now. Where 0 was. So I can reset this back to 0. And now if I edit one of my attributes and look at the from and to DMX, we now have that fine DMX value. Now I want to show you what that looks like in the DMX sheet so you can get that connection. So here we have the Will Murphy position. We'll go 45 degrees. And if I look at my DMX sheet here, oh gosh, my DMX sheet here, well, maybe I'm thinking of a different.
No, what you did is actually a really neat example. Most fixtures have the pan and tilt,
right,
16-bit pan and tilt channels right next to each other, but there are fixtures out there where you can switch modes on the fixture,
mm-hmm.
and the fixture guys designed it so that the 16-bit channels go at the very end.
Mm-hmm.
So in this example, it's kind of interesting in troubleshooting it because you're like, oh, what, pan's in the middle and the end?
Yeah. So like I was saying, it does take up 2 DMX values. I'm used to seeing them right next to each other. But like Will pointed out in this example, we have the coarse channel assigned to this DMX address and the fine channel assigned to this DMX address. So you see how it's using both to get that value. Pretty neat.
I like this question. Can you maybe go to the help menu and show people where to read about the difference between a parameter and a DMX channel?
Sure.
As many people know, MA talks in terms of parameters, and some people don't understand how that correlates to a DMX channel. It's not a one-to-one correlation.
Isn't that the search?
It's called if you just search for parameter, I think it should show up that link. Or yeah, there you go. Towards the bottom, DMX channel versus parameter. So if you guys take a look at that, you'll definitely learn what the difference is between a DMX parameter, a parameter and a DMX channel. I kind of like this question since you were going over gobos, but you're doing gobos tomorrow?
Yes, specifically.
Is that right? So we had a question about, if you change gobo icons, does it affect your presets?
It'll update the image on your preset if you change the if you change the thumbnail within the fixture profile.
Yeah.
It will update that preset if you're having them visualize.
I think it's important to note, if you jump into the fixture profile editor again, Spencer was talking about the layers. You have the attribute list, and then you go into here, this is the sub-attribute. If you change the ranges of the sub-attributes, it will affect your programming. But if you jump into the function set layer, this third layer, where all the gobos exist, you can do whatever you want in here, and this will not affect any of your preset data. So if you have new gobo images, or you want to change the names, or the ranges are a little different for those buttons, you can change this and it won't affect your programming. It's the sub-attributes that change those before you start programming.
Right.
Somebody was asking, is there a way to offset an attribute such as pan to try to fix any anomalies?
Like if the fixture was hung wrong?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and there's a whole tutorial that we have on our website, support, grandma 2, where is it? I think it's in here. What's the name of it? So many good bulletins.
I don't remember the name of this one. Hung, if you search for the word hung. I think that's what we titled it.
No.
Nope.
90-degree offset, maybe?
Yeah, maybe offset.
No, there's 90 in there.
Maybe it didn't make it to a bulletin yet.
The premise of it is you check out the natural range of that fixture profile. You find the percentage of what 90 is of that, and then you create a DMX profile. Yeah, I did this for that offset. So either that percentage happens down here and levels off here, or the percentage difference happens up here and levels off here. And then you go into your fixture profile, the Will Murphy, go into pan because the freaking guys hung them 90 degrees. Oops, I went too far. In the attribute level, scroll to the right until you see profile. This is where you apply a DMX profile to particular attributes. So now this will offset your pan 90 degrees. And I don't think that changes the natural range. All your programming is the same, right?
Yeah, this is not going to touch your natural range at all. Now, if you went and changed that natural range in your sub-attribute, it's effectively doing the same thing, but our example here that Spencer is pointing out, this is for the entire fixture profile, which means everything. Right. You can apply this profile per fixture, so maybe only 5 of your fixtures are hung wrong. You wouldn't do it in the profile, you do it in the, you have to edit the fixture.
Or you would do it to a particular DMX address.
Yeah, you can do this on a DMX address. Profiles can be applied. You can apply profiles to queues.
What? Oh yeah.
You can apply a profile to a queue, to an attribute, or to a DMX channel, or all the way in the fixture profile.
So maybe just fixture 1 was hung 90 degrees wrong, so I went into patch only, DMX list, And then you have all your universes here. Fixture 1, find my pan, scroll down, boom, apply the DMX profile, fixed. This will update live because you're in patch live. Yeah. Also, if you're seeing weird anomalies with LEDs that have a weird curve on them and you're like, there's no DMX profile assigned to it, look in this list. I've had cases where it's like, yeah, my LEDs aren't working. It's like, well, okay, give me a show file. I looked in this list, boom, there's a profile assigned to it, fix the problem. It's a weird layer between the fixture and the universe patch and all that jazz.
We'll do one more little quick question here. There was a question about building color mixing fixtures that use more than RGBAW. I think you're actually going to cover that tomorrow because we're going over color wheel tomorrow. And we could talk about 7-color LEDs and even those UV kind of LEDs.
Sure, yeah. I'll just point them out real quick. In your select attributes, in the color section, mix color, you have all of these attributes to choose from: indigo, UV, yellow, cyan, magenta. This is where I'm going to point us for tomorrow.
And by the way, that's our color mixing system is based on, I want to say 16 colors in here, I think.
I think that's right.
So your color picker will work with all of these colors. So if you have a 7-color LED, you could choose green, and it will calculate all 7 colors into that.
How much time do we have left?
0.
Dang it. I didn't go over attribute encoder grouping. I'll tag that in another day.
Yeah. We have 2 more days of fixture profiles. I noticed there were some pre-webinar questions that were not related to profiles. However, we had a lot of fixture profile questions, so I just kind of focused on those. We're, of course, going to keep doing these tech talks, so if we don't get your questions answered this week, join us for another one, of course. Keep in mind, if you're a North American customer, you're absolutely welcome to email support@aclighting.com with any of those questions. We'll get those answered. If you're outside of North America, contact your local distributor for support, or you can contact MA International for who the local distributor is in your area that can answer some of your questions further. So.
Very cool. It's been a pleasure, you guys. Stay classy out there.
We'll see you tomorrow.